Yo, what is up? Um, Today, or at least for this video, we're doing life update. So there's been a few things that have been going on that I shall kind of inform you about. So recently I've had a bit of not an identity crisis, but a bit like a figuring out what I want to strive to be for the next minimum few months, ideally like 2 years or something. Because I've been asked a lot of questions on like, what do you want to be? Not what do you want to be like, but like, how do you want to be viewed as? Like, who are you striving to be like? Stuff like that. And like, I didn't have an answer at the time, so I went through a bit of a crisis, trying to think. Because I've been kind of aimless for a while, you know not really sure what I wanted to. It's not really about like what I want to do, more just like a who I want to be as a person. The type of person I want to be and stuff like that. And funnily enough, ended up coming back to where I wanted to be originally. It's just when I like straight off and kind of explored new avenues, it just kind of left me lost a bit. And then I ended up back where I started, which very Hollywood movie esque. The answer was with you all along. The answer was home, kind of thing. So yeah, I came to the conclusion. I was like, okay, because the conclusion was basically, who have I always wanted to be like, right? And I've always wanted to just be like superheroes. You know, Superheroes, anime main characters. I mean, how even like looking back on my life, how I've like pursued a lot of things was very similar to classic story arcs and stuff like that. And the type of person that I've tried to be, or the type of person that I've admired, it's all very like mission driven people who, like, in terms of like goals, they draw their goals to them because they're driven by their mission, but they're also like good people overall. So it's like they're people who are successful in whatever they're doing, but then they're also like good people, and they don't exactly need to like push too much, because the goals in their life are all the goals that want to be in their life, right? They're not really goals that are um, that they're going the extra mile to kind of not force, but having to constantly convince to be in their life. These are all girls that like want to be in their life. These guys aren't really even like trying that hard. Like in terms of the anime main characters, they're either like oblivious or for some reason averse to having any form of like relationship. But because of the type of person that they are and the type of like success that they're having in whatever relevant story thing, these girls just want to be in their lives. And that's basically the type of life I'm trying to live. Not like all of it, like anime main characters sometimes piss me off, in their obliviousness. But like a good middle, like, with superheroes where they actually, do stuff. But like, I like the idea of like um, women in my life that I don't really need to try for. Not to say that I wouldn't try, because, obviously, uh, you want to like the person that's with you, or the people that you want to like the people that are in your life. But it's a thing of, because it's something that like I've kind of needed to not teach myself out of, but like when I got into the whole approaching goals and all of that, it was very much in like the red pill. And I think it's good. I think it helps with a lot of things. It's a very straightforward way to look at things, which can help if you're lost. It's very much just like, why do you get no goals? Because you had these like metrics that you can control. You don't have them like in the bag. So if you want to get more goals, increase these metrics and go talk to more goals, and you'll get more goals. Basically, like at the baseline. And that worked and it was good, but it kind of ingrained in my mind that like for women to be in your life, you need these certain things, and you need to be always leveraging these certain things to like have them in your life. And it kind of made me, and I think a lot of guys, and it's not even like the Red Bull, just even how guys are brought up in general to how they interact with girls. It's always this kind of there's always this kind of backdrop of this girl is only in your life because you somehow convincing her to be in your life. She's only in your life because you're this popular, you take her on dates, you do this nice thing for her, you give her all this stuff, and that's why she's in your life. And it's easy for, as a guy, for you to forget that, like, girls like guys, you know? Like, you kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just like me, but it's like you kind of brought up, uh, and it's easy to forget that girls like guys. Girls also are attracted to guys. Girls also, and you don't really realize this until you meet a girl like this, whether it be like secondhand or like, she's going for you. Because I remember this is when I started to realize it, when with one of my exes, um, she would like talk about, like, when I'll talk to her, she'd talk about versions of me that I had even forgotten about. Like, the one time she mentioned something that involved like me wearing a cap, right? And there was a point in my life where making it sound like a big grandiose thing, but there was like a point where I wore caps like every day, and yeah, there was a point where where to wear caps every day. But by then it had been like months since I'd worn caps, since I'd worn a cap. So when she said that, and she was like, "Oh no, but you're wearing caps all the time," I was like, "Wait, how long is this like girl been watching me for? Like, how long have I been like in the vision, you know?" uh so basically, like, that's was where it started pushing me to like kind of think about that stuff. And then, like, the longer I went on, the more I realized, like, yeah, like, it's easy to forget, like, the way that, like, we kind of conditioned as men in terms of like how to approach dating and stuff. It's easy to forget that there's guys that girls just like, it's easy to forget that girls are also attracted to men. you know Girls are attracted to the opposite sex too. So there's also people, girls will see a guy just like a, yeah, just like a guy would see a girl, and they'd be in love instantly. They'd want to do all the stuff. They'd want to. It's just that, unlike guys, girls aren't really encouraged, like, socialized to be approaching guys, and girls kind of struggle with. Girls do really bad with rejection, so they just avoid doing it, and then there's no pressure for them to do it, because a guy can be afraid. Every guy's like somewhat averse to rejection, but, like, societally speaking, we're kind of pushed to make the first move. So you got to get over it. You got to get over it and accept that rejection's a part of just the how it works if you want to win. If if you want to get the if you want even a chance of getting the goal that you want. But, like, girls, they're not really pushed in that way, so it's easy for them to just kind of not. That's why it's easy to forget that girls are also attracted to guys, because most girls just don't show that interest as straight up to make it obvious, right? But, like, when I realized that, which I know is a stupid not stupid, but it's like you'd think it would be obvious. But, like, when when I like truly internalized that, I was like, yo, like, why why would I bend over backwards? Kind of like, why, as a guy, right? As a person, even, why would you bend over backwards to try and like convince someone that they should like you, right? Like, you should really just be going to this person, putting yourself across as the best you possibly can. But, like, you'd be doing that with men, women, like, every person you interact with, until you're like truly comfortable with them, and you like give a bit of leeway of like letting even like the messy versions of like how you articulate yourself and stuff like that out. You kind of want to put out your most like charismatic version of yourself, right? So it's like, you just, ideally, you just put yourself out there, right? Go talk to this girl that you find attractive, but you don't really need to like push for anything like certain. You just go talk to her, especially like, I can understand in like cases where it's like straight cold approach, where you're at the mall, you won't really see this person again unless you like make it a thing that you're gonna see them, and you get them to kind of buy into you off the bat, right? That makes sense. If you're at the mall, if you're at some event, then obviously the game is a bit different. You want to like get them to buy into you more off the bat, so that you can build from there. But in like a case where it's like school or the gym or something, you can do a more genuine sounds. It's not like what I genuine is not what I want to put across, but more like, kind of ideal, but not really. But like, just you have more time to actually like get to know each other and shit like that. And you want to be in a situation where you can gauge, am I talking to this person and they actually want to be around me, or do they not? And it's like, if they don't, then like, why are you still there? Like, even not even like for them, like, who cares about them really? More for you. Like, you don't need to be forcing something with someone that doesn't want to be with you, because this girl that you're like stressing over, oh, does she like me, does she not? There's a guy that like she messages thinking, oh, does she like me, does she not? And what I mean by that is that there's a guy that she likes enough to be actively putting herself out there and just like losing, but she likes this guy enough. There's a guy that like will be liking her and she'll be liking him, and she'll be messaging him first, and she'll be asking like, oh, I haven't seen you. She'll be calling him to be like, yo, where are you? I haven't seen you today, I want to see you, blah blah blah. And here you are worrying about some chick that like doesn't read your messages, or even worse, some chick that just leaves you on red, or some chick that try with doesn't try with the messages, gives you one word answers. You're stressing about her when you really don't need to. Like, I don't know, maybe this is just like a me thing. Maybe I'll come back in a few months and be like, no, I was wrong. But like, from what I've seen, funnily enough, like all the so far successful like relationships I've seen, oh, who would have known, both people like each other. That it's never, so far, I've never seen a relationship that stems from the person didn't like the other person off the bat. Like, I've never seen, none of my friends are in relationships where they went up to a girl and this girl wasn't already, either had been interested in them, or was initially like, she saw him and she was like, wow. Even with me, all the situations and like things that I've had, it's always been with someone with mutual interest, mutual or like stronger interest. Even like at the club, I've never had success when it's like trying to convince a girl to like me. You're trying to like talk your way into like, maybe I just don't have the mouthpiece like that. But like, I never had success with like trying to like convince a girl to like me. It's always been, I've gone up to a girl, she looks at me the same way that I looked at her and I was like, yeah. She looks at me and she's like, yeah. And then like, stuff happens. The same way. No, yeah, that's basically what I mean. Like, I realized that the people that I looked up to, they weren't really like too focused on like goals outside of just like a general socializing, and like, if there's a girl that they like, they talk to them, present themselves well. Uh, Now I realized other things, like I'm not too good with flirting. I'm pretty ass at it actually, so I must stop that. I'm gonna stop that. I'm not like great with it, like doing it on purpose. Sometimes it can happen by accident, but like, that's not me being good with flirting, or rather just me being charismatic enough, I guess, for like sometimes accidental stuff flies out, right? But that's not, when I try to do it on purpose, it usually flops. So that's one thing that I've realized. And then in terms of like who I, what's it called, the role models that I kind of strive to be like image wise, I came to the conclusion of where I already was, which was basically Henry Cavill, Chris Hemsworth, Jason Momoa. And what do I mean by that? Well, they basically like, they're an archetype of guy that I want to be like. They're all like very much in shape, buff. Women lust over them in the very much like, because it's funny, like, I was very much like, part of where my crisis was coming from is that I was very much trying to be someone that I'm not. So I was trying to be like the playboy, in terms of like demeanor, which is very much not me. It's very much not me. It's not even like vaguely how, whenever the topic comes up, I am perceived. Whenever it's like come up, and just for the record, I never bring it up. It's always just like a topic of conversation when I arrive or something. But whenever it comes up and like girls or something are asked about, it's always like, oh yeah, you give off like husband material or stuff like that. And like, yeah, so for me it was a weird thing, because somehow I gaslit myself into believing that was a bad thing. It's more like my Red Pill the red pill like internet kind of cooked me a bit because I was like, what husband material? Like what I heard when I heard that was like, oh, you're someone that I'd only get with if you settle down, to settle down. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, oh shit, husband material, ugh. But like, there's positive ways things can be framed. That just means, oh yeah, I feel safe around you. I would have kids with you. You seem like a stable guy. You seem like a good guy, like you'd be a good dad, all that extra stuff, right? But like, I was focused on the negative. But basically, these kind of guys, they get like the same kind of archetype assigned to them. If you look at all the girls lusting over them in like comments of stuff that they're in, it's always like, oh yeah, raw, oh yeah, what's it called? We're already married, stuff like that. So these are like good looking, attractive guys. I'm obviously trying to be good looking and attractive. They're all successful within their field. Happens to be the same field, but like they're all successful within their field. Their styles are kind of like different. Some of them dress smarter than others, but like it also like personality wise, they're like masculine, but they're also like goofy in a way that I enjoy them being goofy. Like, Cavill's a nerd. Um, Cavill's a nerd. Hemsworth is like very goofy, and he's a cool like surfer guy, and he's Australian. And Momoa is also like very goofy. They're all like chill guys. They seem like, and they the kind of person that I want to be in the future, I guess. But yeah, so I came to the conclusion of that, and then there was some other like conclusions when I was thinking of like general goals, not yeah, general goals and stuff. Like the one thing I wrote down was like, oh yeah, the type of person that you want to be, you kind of you want to be the samurai who writes poetry. Because I was thinking like, how do I want to present myself? Because I'm not too as much as like any guy, I'm interested in having like success with women. I've never really found like fulfillment focusing too much on it. I find fulfillment focusing a bit on it, putting some focus towards it. Because like when I don't put any focus towards it, it's just me coping. You know, whenever I like try and avoid putting any focus, it's just me like avoiding rejection, which is not a good thing either. But putting too much focus on it, I find it's not very fulfilling in terms of like not even just results. It's like one of those things where I'll sometimes feel like I'm pushing off more important things. I'm pushing off like my goals, my studies, all that for girls. But it's like one of those things where I forgot who it was, but it's like you'll lose money chasing a girl, but you'll never lose a girl chasing money, kind of thing, right? Where it's like I should really, in terms of like priorities, my goals, my personal goals and my personal development should always be over like girls, because that's how I got like lost in the first place. When I was like focusing on like getting more goals and stuff, I was trying to like shift myself in a way to become more attractive to women. Well, in like what I thought would be more attractive, basically. But the issue with that is that it kind of like pushed me off of my goals that would make me more attractive by default, because it's not like any of my goals are like unattractive. My goals, get in better shape, have better skin. Those are like personal goals. Get in better shape, better skin, social status, money, all the normal stuff. So it's like, learn a few languages. Like none of these are unattractive things. I don't have any like straight just I don't know what would be an unattractive goal that's like not just straight illegal. And even then some of the illegal stuff is for some reason attractive. But yeah, like samurai that writes poetry, you want that dichotomy in your life. And oh yeah, and I've also found upon like greater thinking, within the dome, uh greater thinking, because I've been thinking it's along the same lines of like kind of finding myself, I guess, where I've been thinking about what kind of relationships I get the most fulfillment from. And I found that I get less fulfillment from like pure lust relationships, and more like I get more. I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but young guy here. Uh, I get more fulfillment from like connection based things, you know, because like the thing is, I've had like a few interactions where it's been purely like lustful, purely, you know, I don't know what I can say. Yeah, like purely sexual, and it's like nice at the time, but then usually like I leave kind of, you know, you feel dirty when you know, you feel dirty. You want to shower. You're like, you know, there's a level of like all of us, you know, there's been some we're not too proud of, you know. There's been some situations we're not too proud of, you know, some you know, late night situations, you know, it's like 3 a.m. and you're like, but yeah, like pure physical ones, I tend to like come out feeling pretty unfulfilled. But the connection based ones is where like I'm happiest, you know. I come out like, even if it's like a one time thing for whatever reason, or I'm not like planning to take it like super serious. I enjoy when there's like some form of connection there. You know, there's been times where like I've gone to a girl's place and it we didn't even do anything crazy. Like we just made out and talked. And I came out of that feeling like feeling more fulfilled than if I had gone there just to do physical stuff that was like, you know, more crazy than that. Do physical stuff and then, but there was no like actual uh, connection there. I know for a fact I felt better than if that would have been the case. And that's how, you know, thinking, it's one of those thinking back on it, you know, in the moment you kind of just focused on the goal of like, oh, more, you know, I want to be this Casanova, this crazy, you know, so my friends can like be so impressed with me and stuff. And you kind of lose sight of like, or maybe not lose sight, but like you don't really pay too much attention to like what actually makes you happy, you know? Like I know at some point I got kind of stuck in like uh what my friends thought of me, and not in like, it's like a thing of like I know my one friend, I need to kind of correct him, but it's not like his fault, it's more on me, because like he has this idea of what my goals are, right? And that idea was true at a time, but like, you know, it's kind of updated, you know. It's updated with me like figuring out shit, because he has this idea that I just want to smash, I just want to crash, you know, I just want to crush. But that's not the case any longer. Like I don't want a full relationship, but at the same time, like I ain't just trying to, you know. But yeah, that's basically, you know, life update in terms of where my head's at and all that, you know. This whole being a young guy figuring himself out. But yeah, thanks for watching, you know. Leave your comments, leave your like, subscribe, all that, and see you in the next one. Peace.